Shalom, Israel. We back again for our chapter a day. This is going to be, actually, this is going to be two chapters today because one of the chapters, chapter 3, which is the next in the line, is pretty short and it kind of just merges into chapter 4. The scene is pretty much the same, so we'll just read through both chapters as one. So where we left off were the other kings of Persia, and other nations and kingdoms, and all of King Cyrus's or is it King Cyrus or Darius? King Darius's council were pleading with him to refrain from allowing the Jews to rebuild the city, to rebuild the temples in Jerusalem and the walls of Jerusalem, because they feared that if they were to do that, then they would basically be able to get back to doing what they do to serve the Most High. And like I told you in the last video, that's probably the most scary thing these nations, the last thing they wanted to see, trust me. Because every time the Most High was with Israel, bad things happened for people who didn't want to do right by Israel. So, leading into chapter 3 now, let's just begin. And we'll stop where we need to, just in case, if we have any commentary you want to go over, but it'll be a pretty straightforward chapter, I feel like. So, now, when Darius reigned, he made a great feast unto all his subjects, and to all the household, and to all the princes of Media and Persia, and to all the governors, and captains, and lieutenants that were under him, from India unto Ethiopia, of 127 provinces. And when they had eaten and drunken, and being satisfied were gone home, then Darius the king went into his bedchamber and slept, and soon after awaked. Then 3 young men that were of the guard that kept the king's body spake one to another, Let every one of us speak a sentence. He that shall overcome, and whose sentence shall seem wiser than the others, unto him shall the king Darius give great gifts and great things in token of victory, as to be clothed in purple, to drink in gold, and to sleep upon gold, and a chariot with bridles of gold, and an head tire of fine linen, and a chain about his neck. And he shall sit next to Darius because of his wisdom, and shall be called Darius his cousin. And then everyone wrote his sentence, sealed it, and laid it under King Darius his pillow, and said that when the king is risen, some will give him the writings, and of whose side the king and the 3 princes of Persia shall judge that his sentence is the wisest, to him shall the victory be given, as was appointed. The first wrote, Wine is the strongest. The second wrote, The king is strongest. The third wrote, Women are strongest, but above all things, truth beareth away the victory. Now when the king was risen up, they took their writings and delivered them unto him, and so he read them. And sending forth, he called all the princes of Persia and Media, and the governors, and the captains, and the lieutenants, and the chief officers, and sat him down in the royal seat of judgment. And the writings were read before them. And he said, Call the young men, and they shall declare their own sentences. So they were called and came in. And he said unto them, Declare unto us your mind concerning the writings. Then began the first, who had spoken of the strength of wine. And he said thus, O ye men, how exceeding strong is wine! It causeth all men to err that drink it. It maketh the mind of the king of the fatherless child to be all one, of the bondman and of the freeman, of the poor man and of the rich. It turneth also every thought into jollity and mirth, so that a man remembereth neither sorrow nor debt. And it maketh every heart rich, so that a man remembereth neither king nor governor. And it maketh to speak all things by talents. And when they are in their cups, they forget their love both to friends and brethren, and a little after draw out swords. But when they are from the wine, they remember not what they have done. O ye men, is not wine the strongest, that enforceth to do thus? And when he had so speaking, he held his peace. That was chapter 3. We're just going to pause right there before we continue with chapter 4. Just a comment on the wine thing. First of all, I thought it was interesting that all 3 of the wise men's words, they decided to speak on what they felt was the strongest, I'm guessing, force in the world, in the earth. One said wine. Another said women, but above all the truth. And then the third, I believe says kings. We'll read about those last 2 in the next chapter. But I just thought it was funny, though, coming down to verse 22 when it says, And when they are in their cups, they forget their love, both to friends and brethren, and a little after draw swords. And don't that sound like that's Israel? Don't when we get together and when we drinking, we having a good old time, we having a nice laugh. Everything's all good, and even reading back about how the rich and the poor, the king and the common men, they both become on the same level because we forget our titles, our status, we forget our whatever vanity and riches we have, and at the end of the day, we're all the same. We're all just people. We're all just men and women, and we can find common ground. We all put our pants on the same way. We all have the same body parts mostly. But then when we get a little too drunk, things can get a little iffy. People start to, you step on somebody's shoe at the club and then they want to start a whole shootout, or, it's not nothing so, it's not always so dire with that example, but just it could be at a family gathering, just having two cousins or two brothers having a little too much to drink and making a competition out of everything. And then next thing you know, that childhood rivalry comes back up, and then it manifests in more violent ways than perhaps it did in the actual childhood. But then, you wake up the next day with the hangover, and you're like, man, what did I do? What was wrong with me? You don't even. That's if you can even remember what happened, right? So I just thought that was funny. It definitely sounds like our people, just to yeah. So anyway, chapter 4. Then the second that had spoken of the strength of the king began to say, O ye men, do not men excel in strength that bear rule over sea and land and all things in them? But yet the king is more mighty, for he is Lord of all these things, and hath dominion over them. And whatsoever he commandeth them, they do. And if he bid them make war the one against the other, they do it. If he send them out against the enemies, they go and break down mountains and walls and towers. They slay and are slain, and transgress not the king's commandment. If they get the victory, they bring all to the king, as well as the spoil, as all things else. Likewise, for those that are no soldiers, and have not to do with wars, but use husbandry, when they have reaped again that which they had sown, they bring it to the king, and compel one another to pay tribute unto the king. And yet he is but one man. If he command to kill, they kill. If he command to spare, they spare. If he command to smite, they smite. If he command to make desolate, they make desolate. If he command to build, they build. If he command to cut down, they cut down. If he command to plant, they plant. So all his people and his armies obey him. Furthermore, he lieth down, he eateth and drinketh and taketh his rest. And these keep watch round about him. Neither may anyone depart and do his own business, neither disobey they him in anything. O ye men, how should not the king be mightiest, when in such sort he is obeyed? And then he held his tongue. And he's, it's absolutely true. As I don't believe in giving that much reverence and that much power to one man, personally. And then that's why the king subject is it's always a little iffy for me, but it's true. In these sorts of kingdoms, the king does have all that absolute power. A wise king won't just abuse that power over and over and over again, but he does have the final say on everything. Eventually, if he pisses enough people off, that king will, he will gain his enemies. He'll have a target on his back. But the king, I guess, in this element is strong. But let's read on to see who thinks, what else they think is the strongest. So starting again from verse, please forgive me, Salakia, verse 13. Then the third, who had spoken of women and of the truth, this was Zerubbabel, began to speak. O ye men, it is not the great king, nor the multitude of men, neither is it wine that excelleth. Who is it then that ruleth them, or hath the lordship over them? Are they not women? Women have borne the king and all the people that bear rule by sea and land. Even of them they came they, and they nourished them up that planted the vineyards, from whence the wine cometh. These also make garments for men. These bring glory unto men, and without women cannot men be. True. Yea, and if men have gathered together gold and silver, or any other goodly thing, do they not love a woman which is comely in favor and beauty? And letting all those things go, do they not gape, and even with open mouth fix their eyes fast on her? And have not all men more desire unto her than unto silver or gold, or any goodly thing whatsoever? A man leaveth his own father that brought him up, and his own country, and cleaveth unto his wife. He sticketh not to spend his life with his wife, and remembereth neither father, nor mother, nor country. By this also you must know that women have dominion over you. Do you not labor and toil and give and bring all to the woman? Yea, a man taketh his sword and goeth his way to rob and to steal, to sail upon the sea and upon rivers, and looketh upon the lion, and goeth in the darkness. And when he hath stolen, spoiled, and robbed, he bringeth it to his love. Wherefore a man loveth his wife better than father or mother. Yea, many there be that have run out of their wits for women, and become servants for their sakes. Many also have perished, have erred, and sinned for women. And now do ye not believe me? Is not the king great in his power? Do not all regions fear to touch him? Yet did I see him and upon me the king's concubine, the daughter of the admiral Bardicus, sitting at the right hand of the king, and taking the crown from the king's head, and setting it upon her own head. She also struck the king with her left hand. And yet for all this the king gaped and gazed upon her with open mouth. If she laughed upon him, he laughed also. But if she took any displeasure at him, the king was fain to flatter, that she might be reconciled to him again. O ye men, how can it be but women should be strong, seeing they do thus? I'll take a quick break there. Yeah, we'll just take a quick break there, just to talk about. I mean, yeah, everything he's saying is true. Women, men do a lot of crazy things for women, and there's a very simple reason why. One, especially if we're talking about in the context of a kingship, a man wants to bring forth life into this world to pass on his legacy, especially to bear a son, and it's true, women, men wouldn't be men. We wouldn't be here without women, but women also wouldn't be here without men. That's the chief thing I think a lot of people mix up, is that, men and women need each other. There's no women are gods or men are gods. No, we are both equal in footing on this earth, and we are all filthy rags on our best days. So men and women need each other. There would not be one without the other. But men do recognize that women are the treasures for men. They're the most treasurable thing. If you can find the woman of your dreams, you will do anything you can to not only court her and secure her marriage, but to keep her happy. Happy wife, happy life is the saying. Even though that saying is one-sided, both sides need to be happy. But we can see, we do all things we do to provide for those women as well. We go to work. We want to provide, shelter, food, clothing, raiment. We want to supply all the good things that that women desire, and we want to do this because we just want to make them happy, because we want them around us. Just like it says in verses 29 through 31, the queen could sit right next to the king on his throne, take his crown, slap him in the face, and all he can do is look at her and wonder why, and then try to make it right. It's not always easier said than done. We know it can be a tricky task to figure out what's ailing a woman, but if she's your wife, and if you're acting in righteousness, because I don't think, of course, if we're not going to get onto that subject. Let's not get too off course here, but basically saying, a strong woman is a man's weakness, is a man's biggest weakness, and so you would think that the women have the most strength, and that would be a very viable conclusion. But let's keep reading to see what the truth part of it is all about. And so we are moving on to verse from 33. Then the king and the princes looked one upon another. So he began to speak of the truth. O ye men, are not women strong? Great is the earth, high is the heaven, swift is the sun in his course, for he compasseth the heavens round about, and fetcheth his course again to his own place in one day. Is he not great that maketh these things? Therefore great is the truth, and stronger than all things. All the earth crieth upon the truth, and the heaven blesseth it. All works shake and tremble at it, and with it is no unrighteous thing. Wine is wicked, the king is wicked, women are wicked, all the children of men are wicked, and such are all their wicked works, and there is no truth in them. In their unrighteousness also shall they perish. As for the truth, it endureth, and is always strong. It liveth and conquereth for evermore. With her there is no accepting of portions or rewards, but she doeth the things that are just, and refraineth from all unjust and wicked things. And all men do well like of her works. Neither in her judgment is any unrighteousness. And she is the strength, kingdom, power, and majesty of all ages. Blessed be the God of truth. And with that he held his peace. And all the people then shouted and said, Great is truth and mighty above all things. And I do believe that that's the right answer. I've always said that truth endures all. It endures all things, ideas, people, time, words, whatever. Doesn't matter what you believe at the end of the day. The truth is always going to be the truth, and I think that's a good theme that to meditate on. In reference to today's world, because the truth is now frowned upon. You tell the truth and you offend people. People don't want to hear the truth anymore. But just because you don't want to hear the truth doesn't make it the truth any less more the truth. Things that are proven to be true cannot simply be changed. There's a difference between fact and fiction. There's a hard line, and there can only be one truth. I always hear a lot of people, no, there could be, everybody has their own truth. Who's to say what the truth really? No, there's only one truth. There is only one truth. The sun rises in the morning and sets in the evening. That is the one truth. Okay? Grass is green. That's the one truth. Like, if you try to tell me anything else, I'm just going to look at you and laugh because it makes no sense. The truth is the truth. And I'm not sure who I'm speaking to with that comment. And actually, I'm pretty sure I'm speaking to somebody I can think of off the top of my head. But if they happen to see this video, oh well, I'm not gonna sugarcoat I guess the validity of what that means. If somebody were to tell me that there are 28 hours in a day, and I look at this clock, not time is a construct of man anyway, but let's just use it as an example. And I look at the clock and there's only 24 hours to be accounted for, then you telling me there are 28 hours in a day is a flat out lie. The truth is there are 24 hours in a day. I don't care what truth you think that you have, because until you can prove that that is the case for all of mankind, that's what governs all of mankind, 28 hours in a day, then you can't tell me that that's the truth. If it does change to be that, if we do change to a 28-hour clock. But yeah, long story short, the truth is the truth, and there's nothing that changes it. Whether we know the truth and when, how we get to the truth, that's a whole nother matter entirely. But there can only be one truth in all things. All right, let us move on. I forgot where I was. We're in chapter 4, I know, and we stopped at truth and mighty above all things. Greatest truth and mighty above all things. So now we're on verse 42. Then said the king unto him, Ask what thou wilt more than is appointed in the writing, and we will give it thee, because thou art found wisest, and thou shalt sit next to me, and shalt be called my cousin. So Darius basically said, you know what? Hey, that was real. You won off rip. We don't even need to have a meeting about this. And so he's even pleased to the point where he's going to give the man everything he wants, more than what he even set aside for him. So let's see what he gets. And then said he unto the king, Remember thy vow, which thou hast vowed to build Jerusalem in the day when thou camest to thy kingdom. So he's saying, you know what? Look, you told us you were going to rebuild that kingdom. I know you got people speaking in your ears telling you not to, but this is what you promised. And if you consider me to be the wisest of all the men that you brought here, then you should know that it'd be a wise thing to allow us to rebuild our kingdom. So let's continue. Verse 44, and to send away all the vessels that were taken away out of Jerusalem, which Cyrus set apart when he vowed to destroy Babylon, and to send them again thither. Thou also hast vowed to build up the temple, which the Edomites burned when Judah was made desolate by the Chaldees. And now, O Lord the King, this is that which I require, and which I desire of thee. And this is the princely liberality proceeding from thyself. I desire therefore that thou make good the vow, the performance whereof with thine own mouth thou hast vowed to the King of heaven. Then Darius the king stood up and kissed him, and wrote letters for him unto all the treasurers and lieutenants and captains and governors, that they should safely convey on their way both him and all those that go up with him to build Jerusalem. He wrote letters also unto the lieutenants that were in Cilicia and Phenice, and unto them in Libanus, that they should bring cedar wood from Libanus unto Jerusalem, and that they should build the city with him. Moreover, he wrote for all the Jews that went out of his realm up into Jewry, concerning their freedom, that no officer, no ruler, no lieutenant, nor treasurer should forcibly enter into their doors, and that all of the country which they hold should be free without tribute, and that the Edomites should give over villages of the Jews which then they held. Yea, that there should be yearly given 20 talents to the building of the temple until the time that it were built, and other 10 talents yearly to maintain the burnt offerings upon the altar every day, as they had a commandment to offer 17. And that all that they went from Babylon to build the city should have free liberty, as well they as their posterity, and all the priests that went away. He wrote also concerning the charges and the priests' vestments wherein they minister, and likewise for the charges of the Levites, to be given them until the day that the house were finished, and Jerusalem builded up. And he commanded to give to all that kept the city pensions and wages. He sent away also all the vessels from Babylon that Cyrus had set apart, and all that Cyrus had given a commandment, the same changed he also to be done, and sent unto Jerusalem. Now when this young man was gone forth, he lifted up his face to heaven toward Jerusalem, and praised the King of heaven, hallelujah, and said, From thee cometh victory, from thee cometh wisdom, and thine is the glory, and I am thy servant. Blessed art thou who hast given me wisdom, for to thee I give thanks, O Lord of our fathers. And so he took the letters and went out and came unto Babylon, and told it all his brethren. And they praised the God of their fathers, because he had given them their freedom and liberty, to go up and to build Jerusalem, and the temple which is called by his name. And they feasted with instruments of music and gladness 7 days. So that the rest of that chapter was just basically him saying, you know what, King Darius, I just want you to fulfill your promise to my God, which was to release us from our captivity, restore us to our holy lands and our city, allow us to rebuild it. And King Darius gave him all of that and more. And he gave them wages, pensions. He basically gave them money to do everything they needed to do. He made sure that the Levites and the priests received their 10% annual tithings, plus an extra 20% on top of that, specifically for the rebuilding project. And he gave them their freedom. He gave them assurances that nobody would come into their domain and attempt to overthrow them or, rule over them or do anything that would otherwise go against the Most High's will. And so we can see here that even King Darius, even Gentile kings, the Most High uses everybody. And, even Gentiles can recognize, okay, and it's, I guess I want to talk about bloodline for a little bit here before we wrap this up, because a lot of people in this truth think that, it's not enough just to say you're a Hebrew Israelite, or you're an Israelite, or you're part of the bloodline. That's good, and that's important to know. But most important than that is knowing who the one true God is and worshiping Him in all things and in all ways. And anybody can do that. It can be Jew or Gentile. And we can see here that Darius was 100% loyal to that decree. He wanted to do what was goodly in the Most High's eyes. Perhaps he feared Perhaps he feared the Most High more than he feared um, the chastisement from his people, from his allies, and Yah put it on him to release the Jews back into their land and give them all their things and then some. And we don't know what we'll continue reading tomorrow to see what comes of that and to see what comes of Darius's fate. But I just thought it was interesting to point out that the Most High can use everybody, and you know, and that's why in these last days, like the camps, a lot of the camps still spew racist rhetoric. You know, we're not to hate people because of who they are or what they look like, because to do that would be to be hypocritical to our own plight. We're not to hate them. We're to show them love and light. We're not to, of course, if somebody's prosecuting you or persecuting you, if somebody is dead set on destroying you, that person, of course, you can hate. You can hate what they're doing. You can hate the spirits that are on them. You can hate their unrighteousness. There is a such thing as righteous hatred. You can hate what people are and not necessarily hate who they are because of who they are. And I think that's one thing we all have to remember as we attempt to spread this truth. We're not going to spread the truth by telling people, oh, just because you exist, no, that's nonsense. There are a lot of people, we'll say even just white people, for instance, or Asians or whoever, a lot of people who, they get lumped into that rhetoric, and all the while they were raised to not see color. They were raised to treat everybody with kindness and respect. And so a lot of them are confused then when they're met with opposite hatred, because of something their forefathers did. Now it's different when the transgressions of your people and then you actively refuse to acknowledge it, and then you continue to partake in that, either partake in said further destruction, or you benefit from it with no regard to the truth of what actually took place. And I'm kind of speaking on like critical race theory, how they're trying to, people want to put their fingers in their ears, and no, we don't want to teach that. We don't want to learn that. We don't want to know about that. But it's history. It's truth, right? Truth endures all. Truth is the most powerful thing. So you have to, if you're gonna stand a chance to stand in front of the Most High and receive a just, I don't want to say a just, I was going to say there's to receive whatever judgment, right? Because at the end of the day, I think most people, once they realize the Most High is who He is and He is true to His word, they would want mercy and grace and salvation. But you can't get that if you're not even willing to acknowledge Him or His people, or what this world has done to His people, and I guess whatever part you may have played in that, whether you had a direct hand in it or whether you're reaping the rewards and benefits from it knowingly and refusing to do anything to make a change about that. So I just wanted to get that off my chest. This video is going on a little long. Like I said, I got to get on with my day. I want to thank you guys for listening. We will pick back up tomorrow with chapter 5. I'm pretty sure we'll just do the one chapter because it's a long one. And so, yeah, that was a chapter a day. I want to give all praises to the Most High. Thank you, Father, for allowing me to do this. Allowing me to wake up every day and giving me the breath of life. Hallelujah. Shalom, shalom, family.